Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eloise. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Well, I'm great now. I know you can hear me.
Yes. Oh, okay, good.
Yes, that's a good
That's
way to
always
start.
good.
Yes, it's always good to start off being, with everything actually working. That's always
Right.
a good thing. Yes. And it's Monday. Wow.
Wow.
Maybe it's going to be a good week, huh? Because everything.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it if it doesn't go by too fast.
That's an interesting idea. Weeks going by too fast.
Yes.
That's been happening lately to me. Has it
Me
to you as
too.
well?
Yes. Me
Okay.
too.
So
The day,
in what way has it been going by too fast for you?
because I have a lot of things to do and goals I want to accomplish and art I want to work on and reading I want to do, and it just goes by too fast. I don't have enough time.
Mhm.
Are there still 24 hours in a day?
Yes,
Maybe
last time I
10.
checked there were. But those hours don't seem to be as long now, do they?
No, they sure don't. When I was working, they dragged.
Right.
Now they
Yeah.
speed.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm finding that too. It's like, and it started for me maybe about 5, 6 years ago. And it just seems like I never really worried too much about anything really, up until about 5 years ago. And then I got this nagging idea in my head that I was running out of time, that I wasn't, that I wasn't going to be able to get everything done that I wanted to get done. And, and that seemed to it just seems like that's a constant thing now for me, is I worry about, will I ever really get around to doing the paintings that I really want to do? So,
Right.
well, and that's paintings, furniture, sculpture,
Projects.
yeah, all kinds of things,
Yeah.
And be able to hang out with the people that you love and want to be with and do all that stuff too. It's crazy. So
Right.
I don't know.
Well, here's hoping we just keep on moving and see what happens.
Yeah. So you don't have any good wisdom on how to make that better, huh?
I wish I did.
I wish you did
just
too.
Keep it moving.
I know.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the key. You just gotta keep going forward and
Right.
see what happens. So good morning, everybody else. How you doing, Alon? Hey, John.
Morning.
Here. Let's see. Armando's here. Betty is here. Wow. Okay.
Everybody wakes up now.
Yes, it's Monday. Yay! So, Veronica's here. Her and her heart and spirit. I now know that is her. I see that and it's like, who is that? So now I'm beginning to get your little incognito things down there every once in a while. So did everybody have a good weekend?
Yes.
Yes.
Very
good.
For old people, nothing new, nothing exciting, same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just an additional wrinkle.
Okay. Well, I've got a little bit of news for you. There was an email, and it was actually on the news as well, I think. Starting this week, okay, Fulton County is opening up the Mercedes-Benz Stadium as what they call a super site. And I think they were doing about 1,000 vaccinations a day there. Now they're looking at an average of 5,000 to 6,000 a day.
Wow.
So yeah, they're getting serious. They're getting serious about it. And I don't know. I'm supposed to go back there actually on the 20th and get my second shot. I went and got my first one there. So I don't know how many of you still need your second or whatever. but there's that happening. And from what I understand, I know that they put out a call for people trying to find out whether or not they've had their vaccinations or not. And I know that I think they're supposed to, they had it at Darnell. Now I think they're having it at Benson, where, people can go there and get their, second or first vaccination, whatever you need. So you might want to check in with Sabrina or, your center director or whoever and see, what they've got in the works as far as the schedule for getting around to the senior centers. Because I think they're trying to keep, they're trying to cover all the seniors at this point. Because I think they've got most of the frontline workers and folks like that. So we're kind of moving into that phase of where they're trying to get all the seniors covered. And then after that, they can move into phase 2 or whatever.
Everybody.
Get everybody else.
Yeah, they're supposed to start with the teachers soon too,
Yeah,
which I think is an
today.
excellent idea.
Today, we'll start today.
Today?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Excellent idea.
Yeah, I think teachers have been moved into that group that they're doing at the super site now.
But
So
here in Fulton, they have another location in Alpharetta.
Yeah. Well, actually, they've got like 5 different locations you can go to, in that I know of in Fulton. They may have more. Cobb County, actually, when I was trying to get on the list, they, there were a couple of places in Cobb County because I live up here that I had contacted. And actually one, it's a private, medical facility, just contacted me, checking to see, if I needed to come in. And I told them I had already gotten my first shot at Mercedes-Benz and would be going back there on the 20th. So I won't be taking advantage of that. But, I think most counties and things, they're in the metro area, they're kind of catching up to things and trying to get people, vaccinated and stuff. So hopefully soon, we'll get the vast majority of people. I think they have to hit that 60 to 70% threshold. Once they get to that 60 or 70%, the expectation is that you have, not total immunity from it, but you've got what they call herd immunity, which really cuts down on the spread of viruses and stuff. So, we got a little while longer, but hang in there. I think we're
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're
No,
moving.
I heard this morning that 16 states have lifted all restrictions, which to me seems a little premature.
Yeah,
That's
well,
crazy.
but okay. That being said, we live in a state that never had a mask mandate, that never
That's
had any
right.
restrictions, okay? Ever, okay? Now, different municipalities like Fulton County, the city of Atlanta, fought with the state tooth and nail because the state wanted everything to stay open. And city of Atlanta, Mayor Bottoms and the county commissioners in Fulton County, decided to override that, shut that down, and actually put a mask mandate in place for Fulton County. But that didn't happen in Cobb County. There was never a mask mandate that I know of in Cobb County, which is disappointing since I live in Cobb County.
Mm-hmm.
And we just swung blue this time, but still the county officials never really made it a public health policy to wear a mask. Most of what's been done here has been done through the local businesses and restaurants and things like that, which have remained open, but at the same time, a lot of them have closed their doors for on-site eating, and you can do pickup and takeout and stuff like that with them. So I think a lot of that was really driven by the businesses more than by the county officials here, unfortunately. And I don't know about the rest of the counties, you know, as far as what they've done. But I know Fulton's been really proactive, you know, and slowly but surely, I think, you know, we're making some progress here. So we're gonna hang in there. Anyway, let's talk about a little art and stuff like that. Did anybody do anything fun this weekend? Anybody get out and see anything, or stay at home and see anything that they got particularly inspired by?
Only church.
You went to church?
Yeah, we had the service in the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah. Where do you go to church?
St. Jude in Sand Spring.
Okay. All right. And so you went out there, what, Sunday morning?
No, and 1 p.m. and after that we socialize, and so
Okay.
that's the
All right.
only thing.
Yeah. So you get out, you get to see a few people and stuff. That's good. That's a good, healthy thing. I just listened to it was a little feature on YouTube about aging and about what they call blue zones. Anybody heard of that term before? Blue zones? No.
No.
Blue zones are areas of the world where people, they have a high percentage of people living into their hundreds.
Wow.
Okay. Like, for example, Okinawa, a couple of places in Italy. What is it? I can't remember. I want to say Los Gatos or something like that. It's in the Bay Area, but it's where Stanford University is, whatever town that is. You know, that area, they seem to have a lot of centenarians living around that area. And it's interesting, you know, the research they've done. What they found is there are some really key important factors. And the key important factors are not necessarily exercise and, you know, things like that. Really, the key factors are having about a tight circle of about 3 to 5 close friends that you can stay in touch with and, you know, kind of share things with, people you can rely on. Another part is diet, you know, what you eat and how much you eat. You know, if you eat less, you live longer, they have found. Interestingly enough. And your more or less, you know, your stress level. Have you got some kind of routine or ritual that keeps you less stressed in life? And so, you know, those all seem to be kind of key factors, you know, to helping people live a long and not just a long life, but a long and a productive life. You know, because I think one of the tenets for making it a blue zone is not do they just make it into their hundreds, but do they make it into their hundreds and they're still mobile and independent and, you know, pretty much so self-sufficient. And so that's kind of an interesting study, you know, the things that they right now think are important, you know, in doing that. So I don't know about any of you guys, but, you know, Eloise and I were talking earlier about, you know, days not being long enough, weeks not being long enough. And I'm going to have to live to at least 130 before I can, you know, get even, you know, and that's if I retire next year and do nothing but paint from that time forward. You know, I'll have to live to about 130 to get it anywhere even near close to finished with some of the things I want to do.
Make sure you are mentally and physically healthy.
Right. Yeah.
Mentally first.
Yeah. Well, you know, you know, and I admit to this freely, you know, there's always been a little mental imbalance in me, and that's okay. You know, people think I'm crazy, and I should be. I'm an artist, you know. I'm okay with that.
I'm with you guys. I'm really with you guys on that longevity. I think that we don't know what our days are going to be. That's God's gift to us, but we can do all we can to help take care of the vehicle, which carries our soul, and take care of that. And that vehicle will last long. and hang in there with the real spiritual part of us. My father always said he ate what his body told him. He listened to his body. And he never really exercised. He walked a lot when he was a younger man. He worked real hard when he was a younger man. But after he retired, he did a lot of activities, you know. He was an evangelist, so he went to very many churches and helped young men in their churches. And he participated in a lot of different activities. Every day he did something, but nothing. It really strenuous. And I remember when Oprah and them, they were talking about longevity, but no one ever asked the older people that had longevity, how do they get where they are? You know, we have a lot of people telling us that they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. They have all the information that they think will get us there. But I think you listen to some of the people that are there, and they can tell you better how you can change your life. And those bucket lists, I think you need to keep a healthy bucket list and work on it, even though you always have more than you should have, you know. So I think I've been blessed. I don't know how long I have, but I've been blessed to have good health. And my children say I do too much. I'm always doing something, but I don't think so. I want to use I'm just energetic because I love life. I love work. And I think you have to have that good attitude, peace of mind.
Yeah.
Try to do that.
I think it's a myth that people are always telling you to slow down. You're too old to do that. You shouldn't be doing this and that and that. I think as long as you feel like doing it, you should do it.
I agree.
Yeah. Actually, I think personally, I think the slowing down part, you know, I think that's the thing that actually ages people and kills them. You know, it's like when you start slowing down, when you start kind of easing back on things, you know, because you're either not motivated or maybe you don't physically feel well or something like that. You know, I think that actually kind of works in your detriment in a lot of cases, because
I think this whole past year, I mean, I felt it definitely, the slowing down because of the virus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard, you know, it's a difficult thing to, you know, stay engaged, you know, with you know, other people, things that that you're interested in, you know, projects that you want to do, organizations and things that you want to, you know, participate in and be a member of. You know, all those things can be kind of a challenge as you get older, but I think the more successful you are at keeping those connections, you know, I think it actually has a benefit, you know, long-term to your health, you know, and maybe not just the physical health, but the emotional health.
Mental.
Yeah, and
I think because of they have these virtual classes helps tremendously.
Oh, tremendous.
You know, because I went to the center every single day.
Yeah, I did too.
You know, and had different things going on, talking to different people, just enjoying life.
Yeah.
And once that got cut off, it was like, uh-oh. I had things I could do with my family and stuff I was doing around the house, but this virtual really ups that and really keeps me busy, keeps my mind going, and being able to talk to all of you.
I miss it on the weekends.
Yeah.
I call the club.
all right.
The club.
Yeah. Well, now this is not shameless self-promotion or anything like that, but you know, it's good to hear that, you know, from you guys. And I guess what I would ask is, you know, talk to your center directors, talk to people like that. Let them know, you know, let them know how you feel about these virtual classes and things, because, you know, once we do begin to sort of open up the centers and, you know, people begin to go back, you know, for me, you know, I see this as a format that, you know, we should continue, you know, because even if you can go back into the centers, you know, and be on site, you know, there are times and there are people who can't, And, you know, and this is
Very true.
yeah, I think this is a good vehicle to reach, you know, a wider audience. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that they'll keep doing it.
Charles,
Mhm.
Charles,
I
I
hope
see
it
I
never-
see it on the webinar, on the beach and webinar, that
Mhm.
the instructor sometimes is has a class there in the room and also class on virtual.
Mhm.
So is it possible that you could do the dual, where the people are from the outside are listening in and the people in the inside are there, you know, some form of that if they didn't let you do the whole thing?
Right.
Yeah, because I hope it never goes back to all online. I hope once things open up, we can always have that option to go in and be around people. I don't, you know, there is absolute benefit to this when this is all there is.
Right.
But I would hate to see it, hate to see the in-person go away.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that the in-person will ever all go away. Okay.
No.
And nobody at this point is talking about that. You know, it's a question of, we have this new thing to play with, this new tool, right? And I think it would be very easy to ease back into what we were doing before and just set this aside and let it go. And that would kind of be a shame, because, you know, I think it's a vehicle. You know, it's not the one and only answer, but it is a vehicle to help a large number of people, you know, stay connected and engaged. And so, you know, I'm kind of hoping that they'll figure out something to do with this.
Well, even these courses with you right now, this is not what you did at the center.
No,
And there was no class where you went into like we do at Artists and things. So,
No.
I mean, that is just a totally different class.
it is. Yeah, it is. You know, where the other was more technique and instructional, you know, this is more about concept and history and ideas and motivation, and it gets
Right.
into a lot of the other aspects that I think really are difficult to try to talk about, you know, in a 1 hour window, you know, in a class, you know, on site even.
Right.
And in some ways, you know, virtual classes have advantages, you know, in the sense that you can share like films and things like that, like we're going to do later. Well, here in not too long from now. So, yeah, go ahead, Eloise.
I have learned so much with this presentation. I guess it's like being in a lecture class, but I have learned a lot, so I appreciate it. And I thank you for introducing us to a lot of things that I probably would have never discovered on my own.
I feel the
And
same thing.
That may be something that could be added to the in-person classes, just courses on the art appreciation and, you know, studying about other artists and that kind of thing. I mean, we need audio visual equipment there anyway, where we can have screens on the walls that can project these presentations. And, you know, I think that would be a good goal to improve the in-person program, because I don't see any reason to take away this format. But it's also very beneficial to be on site and actually do painting and have critiques in person while you're working.
Yeah.
We talked about that over 5 years ago. It's
Mhm.
just that the county is just, the pandemic made things come to life for some people. But we talked about doing that with Charles having a screen in his office and being able to show things, you know, so we're just now getting where we should have been 5 years ago or earlier.
Yeah, in a
One
way.
of the things,
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
one of the things that has come to what you mentioned is that the virtual combined with the in-class, and you're trying to do actual instruction, is excruciatingly difficult on the instructor,
Mhm.
because you're trying to focus on the screen and the people who are out there in the virtual land, and then trying to do work with the people who are in class, and it well, I attended a couple of sessions last fall that tried to do that, and the poor instructor was kind of pulling his hair out because trying to do both. And then you have a fair amount of technical difficulties mixed in with the actual, and those probably can be worked out eventually. However, they happen. So you spend 15 minutes trying to work out a difficulty with maybe one student who's virtual, and then the rest of the class is kind of sitting there. And so be careful what you wish for.
Right,
in
I've
these situations.
experienced that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult situation, very difficult. I feel for anybody who has to go through that.
You know, there's a video with the Supreme Court lady that O'Connor, who they did paintings of. They had a whole class that did paintings of her, and they filmed the class. And she was a model, and the people would walk around and help each person, the person who was hosting that, and help. And you could see everybody with their canvases and their palettes and everything. And they were trying and seeing from different angles, and they did a very good job. And after the end, they showed all of these paintings, but everybody was in the room just like a regular art room. So it's different versions, I think, that we need to look at as we move ahead, because I think it can be done. You know, the Portrait Society, the Art Portrait Society, they have a lot of webinars or seminars that you can look at, and that they do an instruction, and you can work with them on your own. So there's so many different versions out there, and you have to pay for theirs. So Benson would be different, so you have to pay for theirs. So this is a way of teaching for the future. So we need to kind of like move ahead with it in some form or another.
Yeah, this is the whole thing now, the whole public school system now. They're talking about having both virtual and on-site and schooling. And that's, I'm sure there'll be the same type of thing with the doubling of the some in person and some on virtual. So it's a big problem for the educators as well.
And again, there's nothing that can replace being side by side with another
Correct.
art, and
Correct.
that discussion and that human interaction, no matter how good your Zoom or whatever format you use, how good they are, that you cannot replace that human interaction. And I think that is a human need, just to be with other people and around other people. So, you know, while there's certainly a future for the online format, I hope that in-person needs never are pushed aside.
Yeah, and I don't ever see that happening. You know, I mean, speaking they, who's they? The county commissioners, and in fact, you know, the whole management staff of the county, you know, they're trying to find every way possible, you know, to get people back into these centers. You know, they have a huge investment in money, time, effort. You know, many years went into developing those centers, and that, out of everything in Fulton County, you know, those 4 multi-purpose facilities, senior centers, are like, you know, flagships literally worldwide.
Yes.
You know, there are people that come from everywhere, you know, in this country as well as foreign countries, send groups of people to these centers to tour them and really look at what Fulton County has done, because it's, you know, what we have here is not, you know, it's an exception. It's not a rule. And in fact, even those states who put a lot of money into senior services and things like that, many of them are lagging far behind where we are, you know, with these centers. So, you know, you got to give them credit. You know, they definitely did something that was unique and different and interesting. And, you know, it's a great model that a lot of people literally around the world are trying to begin to emulate and to build on. And so,
and you think of all the people that go to the Benson Center just to eat lunch and to socialize. I think that's all they come up. And they don't have that anymore. And, you know, I feel bad for them, and I feel bad for all those in adult daycare. I don't know what's happened to all those people,
Mhm.
but it really serves a huge, it has a big impact on the community.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of those vital services that, yeah, and it really does affect so many families in so many ways. Because if you have a loved one who has to be in a daycare program, for example, that helps the individual, but it also really is a period of time that family gets some relief. Because caring for an older person, I did that for a while with my mother, and that can be extremely difficult, and it's not easy. So particularly somebody who has either a cognitive decline and or some kind of physical limitation. So it's you know it's definitely one of those things. It's a good program. Like I said, I don't see any of this going away.
Yes.
And in the future,
Right. Oh,
yeah, in the future, I think the way that the county commissioners in Fulton County look at it, and other public officials look at the benefit from doing that, the investment in those centers is so low, in respect to the return that they get for that, in general public health and things like that.
They come to Sandy Springs Society to get money for like a new refrigerator at the senior daycare.
mhm.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a lot of interaction with the local community, and if that's finding support to get, what you need for those programs, that's not budgeted, then, we've done a lot of that. So, yeah.
I'm sure 4 or 5
You're-
people are around.
Yeah, you're always looking for ways to interact with local community around you. Anyhow, let's get to talking about some art. How about that?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little, since I asked you guys about your weekend, my weekend was really nice. I got to paint all day Saturday, and then Sunday, Maria and I went down to a little park that we went to maybe a month ago. And it's right there in like Midtown Atlanta, and it's kind of around the Peachtree Battle area. And it's it's a really nice little park. I did a little plein air painting out there yesterday, and it was wonderful. It was like, it was only like 60 degrees, but it was sunny, and it felt really nice just to be outside, for a while. And so I'll share that with you guys a little bit later on. But
Hey, Charles,
yes.
I was thinking, in one of these days, you paint in front of the camera for us, talking to us about why you do it. But I don't know if you would like that idea.
Well, the answer to that is yes, I would like that idea. And actually, that's as soon as the weather warms up a little bit, if we're not, back at the centers, I'm going to do a couple of outdoor, alla prima, plein air demos that I'll be filming and sharing with you guys. So, but, hopefully we can get together and all go hang out by the river for a while,
You
Even if
asked
we-
what we had done over the weekend. I had a very wonderful experience. I went to one of the most beautiful parks in Georgia, maybe the most beautiful, Sweetwater State Park, and hiked down to the creek, and it's beautiful scenery.
And which one is this?
Sweetwater State
Oh,
Park.
Sweetwater. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right out here off of I-20.
right.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, I've
You
heard a
could
lot
live
about
there.
it. Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I've never actually been to that park.
Go.
Yeah, I know there are some people out there, who have gone to that and always have come back with really rave reviews. Okay, can I talk? Okay. Anyhow, I want to share some things. There's 3 different things I want you to look at. Now, what we're talking about right now is using your imagination and creativity and stuff. So I want to share these 3 videos with you and get your feedback and see what you think. I'm going to start off. I want to say her name is Fiona Boley. We saw a class that she did, but now this is just a video of her painting, you know, and her painting process. And she doesn't talk, but there's some nice music in it, and you know, it's just kind of a fun thing to watch. It's not very long; it's probably about 10 minutes, and then we'll get into 2 other artists, okay, to look at. So anyway, let's get to that. And where'd you go, Fiona? There she is, or Flora. All right,
Flora.
so Flora Boley. All right, but yeah, I think you guys will have fun with this. Might want to, you know, might inspire you to, you know, pick up a paintbrush, start throwing some paint around.
Walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me downtown. Well, walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me downtown. Well, walk with me, baby, talk with me, take me downtown. Well, walk with me, baby, talk with me, take me downtown. Walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me downtown. Girl, walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me downtown. Girl, I like the way you move, I like the way you move. It's just the little things you do. Well, I like the way you move, I like the way you move. It's just the little things you do. Well, walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me. Walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me downtown. Girl, walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me downtown.
Make those fingers.
Girl, walk with me, baby, come on and talk with me, come on and take me. Girl, walk with me, baby, talk with me, take me downtown. Girl, walk with me, baby, talk with me, take me downtown.
Would you do that? Sure.
So what'd you guys think of that?
She let go.
I like it. She's free.
Yeah.
But you can see
Richard gave
that
it the thumbs down. Okay.
It's free.
So what did you have to say, John? I'm sorry.
you could see that it was planned, not just throwing stuff on a canvas. It was, like you always say when you're coming up with a composition and things like that. To me, it looked like she had planned what she was going to do and knew what she was going to do, and it wasn't just totally arbitrary.
Yeah. Well, now, if you were here, was it Friday, I think?
Yeah.
It was either Wednesday or Friday. We watched a segment with her where she was talking about the creative process, and she had people sit down and do like these little thumbnails.
Right.
Start off with a square, and they may start off with a circle, and they do like 12 of them, and then you do something different in each one, but you have to have that common element, the circle, in there. And the thing is, she starts off that first thing, like that circle, they're all repeats. They're all, if you put the circle in the center, then the circle is always in the center in all 12 of them. And then you kind of add and do things from there. And I thought that was a really, I think that's a good approach. That's similar to an approach that I take, where I do a lot of thumbnails. I'm just working out ideas. Now, I don't usually start off with doing like a repeated pattern or something like that, but most of my things are generally representational anyway. So, and that may be the difference, between how we work, where she's using more graphic elements involved. But I always think it's a good idea, if you have some kind of inspiration or something like that, follow it, but don't just jump in to trying to paint. Even if you think you have this really clear vision of what it is that you want to do, do some thumbnails first, because I think you can work out a lot of stuff in your head and it will give you a better direction to move in. So even though, that looked free, like she was just up there kind of, putting paint, and it was, I think John's right in the sense that it was more of a planned, or she had an intention or somewhere she was going to go with that. It wasn't just random, right? The interesting thing I found about it was, you notice that she got a lot of color up there first, and then it was more of a process of subtraction, with her working with the white and the opaques to block out areas and let other areas kind of come forward. And I kind of found that interesting, in the process of just watching that painting develop. So anybody else got any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that she had put paint on there before and it had dried. Some of it had dried. And then she went back, put other designs on, and then let that dry, and then go back and put the other designs on, so that you'd have layers of different objects and these designs. So I think it took a while to do it. I don't know how long, but it wasn't done in one setting because the paint would be too wet, I would think.
Yeah, I think if you look at the video very carefully, you see that she's starting off in the morning.
Yeah.
And she's using acrylic paint, so it does dry rather quickly. But she didn't finish that painting until the evening or late at night, because it was dark outside, when she finally finished it. So,
and she was using large brushes and rollers too.
Well, yeah, large brushes, rollers, scrapers. I mean, yeah, she had kind of a full range of tools, including, I don't know whether you guys picked this up. It was a potato or something like that she had cut, and then she had cut it into shapes, and she was using it as a stamp to transfer the paint.
I saw her cut that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, well, gee, there's lunch, but no, that wasn't lunch. That was actually she was actually making a tool, and she probably ate some of it too, probably without the paint on it, I would hope. But she was actually using it as a tool to make different shapes and things to use as a stamp to create textures and surfaces, you know, on her painting. So, and she was using her fingers a lot. I noticed, you know, that she was literally taking her fingers, putting it in the paint, and then, you know, running it across the canvas. So, yeah, she was using a lot of different tools and a lot of different processes to build up color on that. And you know, I thought, you know, it's fun to watch things like that. You know, it makes me just want to play with paint and not necessarily worry about, you know, making a representational image per se. But you know, hopefully.
I thought it was interesting that she kept turning the canvas as she worked in various areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, areas, and I think, you know, mainly and we talk about this a lot. You know, you look at it for a while, and it begins to sort of cement in your brain that everything is okay, you know. And as soon as you turn it a different direction, you begin to see where things, you know, maybe you don't have things lined up quite right, or, you know, maybe the relationships aren't quite what you thought they were. And that's an invaluable tool for portrait painters and for anybody doing representational images. Because if you painted something and, you know, you've been working on it for half a day or whatever, and it's looking really good to you, that's a good time to take it and turn it upside down. If it still looks good to you when it's upside down, good for you. But a lot of times you'll turn it upside down and you're like, wow, that looks something not quite right there, you know? And then you start figuring out what that is, and you correct it. And then when you turn it right side up, it looks even better because it actually, you know, your brain has just gotten used to seeing it the way that it, you know, you painted it. So, so use that as a tool. That's a good trick, always. You can do that. You can look in a mirror. You can take, one thing that you could do is take a picture with your camera and look at it on the camera, because the camera reduces the size of it. And if you can get a good picture of it, you know, really look at the contrast and things. If you lose contrast in the painting when it reduces like that, then you know you're in trouble. It should have actually more contrast, you know, in the small photo. But then once you have that small photo, then you can always play with it on the computer or whatever and flip it, you know, and look at it, you know, different directions and things, much easier. And again, if you see something off, you know, in those images, then you know that you have a problem up there on that canvas that you need to go back and address, right? So anybody got anything else to say about Flora before we go away?
What do you call that method she used? This wouldn't be mixed media and multimedia because it's all acrylic. So when you use different tools to complete a painting, is there a name for that?
Not that I'm aware of, no. You know, I mean, she's an abstract painter, and you know, the things that she does, and I've looked at a fair amount of her work now, and I like her work, and I'm going to say some things here. Don't take them the wrong way, okay? But she is what I would consider a decorative artist, okay? And that's not a bad thing. And when I say decorative, I think what she is going for, the market and the way she markets her work and things like that, you know, I don't think she's shooting for anything hanging in the Met. You know, she's shooting for something to hang in your living room. She's a living, breathing, working artist trying to make a living off of the sales of her art and her teaching. And so I think a lot of what drives her is not only what she enjoys doing, but also, you know, something that's marketable, something that's sellable, something that, you know, a lot of people want. So, you know, I think color is important to her. I think texture, you know, pretty much so everything I've seen has some element of nature in it. So there's kind of semi-representational, like leaves, flowers, things like that. I've never actually seen any of her work where she ever used a figure or even the suggestion of a figure. Now, again, you know, I haven't seen all of her work, but, you know, so I mean, I think she's found a particular niche as an artist, and, you know, and she's very comfortable in that. That's something that she enjoys doing, and that's great. You know, that's exactly where I think everyone, including me, would like to be, you know, painting the things that you really love painting and having a market, you know, for that, you know, as soon as you can paint it. And I think she's been very successful at that. So.
Was she titled?
Didn't Picasso create him a market for his art? It's very abstract and interpretational.
Yeah, though Picasso was shooting more for, you know, he was shooting more for institutions and museums.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
She titled her video Intuitive Painting Process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And is that a question or?
Well, the point is that we're wondering what you call her art, and I guess she calls it intuitive art.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I'm not really sure what she would call it. You know, I think if you asked a gallery or something like that, they would say non-representational, decorative, and/or abstract. You know?
Well, and that's just what she titled her video. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, you can call your art whatever you want to. You know. It's kind of like those Scottish colorists who never called themselves Scottish colorists, you know. You know, they got that name later on. And honestly, you know, it's like, even though I would kind of describe my work as, you know, American realism, you know, that's just a big general pot out there right now that people are kind of, you know, jumping into to describe their work. You know, how that's going to be viewed in 50 to 100 years, nobody knows. You know, what they'll, you know, or whether they'll lump all of that together, you know, or whether they'll start separating it out into different things. So, you know, it's.
What I would say about her demonstration, that it was very engaging. Mm-hmm. With the colors, all the very colorful different paints she had on there. I thought it was very engaging and it caught your attention. Mm-hmm. So can be inspiring in that way.
Yeah. And I think intuitive is a good descriptive adjective to use for determining her style. I think intuitive is a good descriptive for it.
Yeah, I think it is as well. I would agree. Though I question the intuitive part, I guess, because, you know, in watching a couple of different videos of hers, I think there's a part of it that becomes intuitive. I think it becomes intuitive at a stage, but there's a lot of planning. You know, there's an awful lot of planning. And like I said, it's pretty clear to me in looking at her process and the videos that she's done that there's nothing left to chance, really, you know, with this. You know, she has a pretty clear direction, you know, where she's headed, you know, when she starts these things. So, you know, whether
that was my first impression too. That it was very, very planned, very definite. She knew exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're selling something, if a lot of your art you're selling, and you want to reach a certain market, and you've sold some pieces already that went very well for you, would you kind of mimic part of that, just change it a little bit, but you still have the leaves in there, you have the texture in there, you have some color, and some of the things you use over and over again, just different colors, just different shapes in a sense.
Yeah, well, you find, I think as an artist, you find the things that work for you, you know?
Yes.
work for you on a technical level, things that you enjoy doing and processes and things, but also, how the market responds. What are the things that fly off the wall? What are the things that sit there and don't move? And then trying to figure out, why did the ones fly off the wall that did? And why are the ones that are still sitting there, why are they not, doing the same thing? That's part of the process, I think, when you get down to trying to make a living as an artist. What are the things you want to be doing, and what can you do that will sustain you? Because unless, and I don't know that any of you are in this situation, unless you're a trust fund baby who, has a very rich family with very deep pockets, none of us get to sit around and just paint the things we want to paint all the time. So, not if you're trying to make a living as an artist. If you're, if you're retired, like I'm going to be here eventually, and, I've got money coming in every month and I don't have to worry about, making those art sales, then I'm a little bit freer, to paint the things I want to paint. And I don't have to answer to the market as to whether they like it or not. So that's, that's choices we all make, along the line. So anyhow, anybody got anything else about Flora before we go on? All right. So I'm going to introduce you to somebody asked, it was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, about pouring, pouring paint, as a process. And I had seen a video on this guy. It was unfortunately, well, it was in that Perspective series. Unfortunately, it was not the best video they produced because the sound was really messed up on it. So I went looking around and I found this video for you to watch. It doesn't go into his history as much, but I'll talk a little bit about him. And he's a Chinese artist. And anyway, take a look at him. I think you will be impressed. Where are you? There you go. Make that a little bigger, a lot bigger. And away we go.
Charles, you say these were pourings?
Yeah. Yeah.
They are different from the ones I'm used to. They seem more
Yeah.
controlled or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, now he's an interesting character to study. He is a Chinese master. He passed away, I think, in the 90s. But he actually exhibited with Pablo Picasso. And he is considered the Picasso of the East. Or as they say, you have Picasso in the West and you have Zhang in the East. But he has taken traditional Chinese painting and took it to a different level where it was almost contemporary and abstract with his poured color techniques and things. And he produced some very large paintings and did some really, really incredible work, still in that traditional Chinese style. So his, in looking at his work, I mean, I love the movement, the color, the composition of it, all of that stuff is pretty exciting. Just his approach to things. And yet at the same time, when you look at it, it looks very much so like ancient or traditional Chinese calligraphy and the drawing techniques and things. June, are you around? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What did you think of his work since you come from that culture?
Yeah, she's very, very famous.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just like you said, is master. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So how do you actually?
Everybody know him.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know him up until a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I was totally unfamiliar with his work. But beautiful work. How do you actually say his name? What would be the correct way of pronouncing that?
It's Da Qian Zhang.
Dao Qin Zhang.
Da Qian Zhang.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He the guy in the video was butchering it badly, but and I would too. But you might want to write his name down, and if you get a chance, go back and look at some of the different videos and things. Particularly that one from Perspective, though the sound on it is, I have to honestly tell you, is just horrible. But the images and the historical background that they give you on this guy is pretty amazing. It's an amazing story. But he studied in China, he studied in Japan, he went back to China. He's had exhibits in the West as well as, in all over Asia. And, literally, in many ways, has changed, Chinese, traditional, painting processes, for future generations. So,
Charles, what type of art would you line him up with?
Well, yeah, that would be hard to say. As I said, at first appearance, it seems to be like traditional Chinese brush or ink, brush painting. But
yeah,
then,
they use like rice paper.
Yeah, he uses rice paper. He did some of them on canvas as well, though. So it's kind of a mix, between some Western influence, very traditional Chinese influence.
I was just curious because it was like he used a lot of dark colors, but even though there was a lot of dark color, he would bring vivid colors in through the dark colors. Because you could see faces even in some of where he painted, you could see faces coming through.
Okay.
It was interesting, and I thought about an outsider, but
Yeah. Yeah, he was a lot of things. He was not an outsider artist. You know, he was classically trained, and he worked with, you know, various other masters to, and in fact, you know, just a kind of a little side story about him that they talked about in the perspective piece. He had a touch of larceny in him. You know, he studied, you know, traditional Chinese master artists, and he actually copied some of their pieces, and he copied them so well that collectors couldn't tell the difference and bought them as those masters' paintings. So, you know, in the end, you know, most people kind of laughed about it, but you know, in the Western world, you know, you can spend time in jail for that. So yeah, it's he's an interesting character. But you know, again, you know, if you take away the subject matter, okay, you know, and you just look at the technical aspects of how he did the work, and it's like with a lot of the more vivid colors, the blues, the blue greens, things like that, a lot of that was literally poured on, and then he let it kind of flow and run. It was, you know, it was poured into a wet surface. And in watching, you know, his process, you know, he would do that fairly early on, and then brush, you know, with India ink, you know, work into that to begin to develop his composition, and then go back and add more color and, you know, push and pull things around. But it's, you know, it's a very kind of creative, you know, process, you know, that he used in creating those. So again, you know, I would take a little bit of time. I'd really look at him very carefully. You know, for some of you who are looking, and particularly if you're using water media like acrylic and or watercolors, you know, really look at his work. You know, there's a lot there that you can pick up and learn from. So, anyhow. Anybody got anything else to say about him? Okay. All right. Moving on. We got one more. And now this gets outside of our realm a little bit because most of you like painting and drawing. But this is a piece on an animator, but very, very creative, very imaginative, you know, animator. And you know, it's a nice video. I think you'll enjoy it. I saved this one for last. So hopefully you have a cup of coffee, and I think it's about what, yeah, 28 minutes. But I want you to
Charles,
say, yes?
is this along the lines of digital art?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Yeah, this is actually like traditional, like old style Disney traditional animation. But, you know, that being said, I just want you to kind of sit back, look at the images, look at how the images move and kind of how they sort of transition and change. I think you'll really enjoy this. Beautiful stuff.
I do, and I think I was honestly too young to appreciate them. I just thought they were wonderful because I felt like I could escape into their worlds. And also because I was told they were good. But the older I get, the more I realize just how magnificent his animation is. So today, I want to try and understand what makes his work so special, and just as equally important, what drives him to continue making it. There's been a lot said about Hayao Miyazaki, and really what I want to do with this video is dig as deep as I can, layer by layer, and also to reveal the essential elements of what make his work so unique. And I think we all know that feeling of wonder, just staring at the sheer force of imagination on show in his work. So I think I'll start there. Miyazaki's visual creations are just on a different level. His worlds became more and more populated with interesting creatures and beautiful flights into a dreamer's mind.
衝撃を受けたんだから、なんかすごい、この人は本当にすごいっていうのを私の中に植え付けた。
Certainly, a deep part of that imagination is rooted in aspects of the Shinto belief that there are spirits everywhere and that they deserve awe and respect.
おはようございます。皆さん、今の誰に私の人だ。
This gives him a license to be creative with bizarre but appealing characters. It's important to note that he doesn't actually write a script. He might write an outline with his plan for a feature, but generally he draws an image and works from there. He aims to capture your interest with intriguing visuals.
ちゃんと水槽に引っかかったでしょ。はい。面白そうじゃん。錯覚の部分があるんだけどね。とりあえず見たやつが面白そうと思えばいいんですよ。面白くなさそうじゃんと思ったらそれ終わりなんだ。
He builds the stories around these visual scenes. I mean, Totoro was originally just the image of a girl and Totoro at a bus stop, and the story grew out of that. It's really important to understand that he allows these visual montages to lead us through his work.
シナリオなんかないですよ、僕だって。もうね、本当に何かに撮ってやってんじゃないんですよね。どういう映画にこの映画はなるのかね。それはわからないんですよ。バカバカしい話だけど、この映画のこの作品の世界がどうなってるかわからないって言われたことあるんです。千と千尋を作るときにね、ちょっとわかりゃしないです。
And working in this way allows the animation to grow and change with its development in a very visual style.
映画って生き物ですね。皆さんのサムワースと含めだから、まあ自分もいい作もできたんだ。それもない人だってさ、まあいい作もできたんだよ。
Like any great animator, he can sit and observe the world from a place that interests him, and then he begins filling the world with life.
美しいって言うんだよね。気がつかないだけで世界は美しい。そういう目で見たいだからね。
I think one of the essential elements of the success of Miyazaki's work is that his worlds feel full. Starting with the worlds they're even just set in. With that, everything in the frame seems to just add to the story. There's a Japanese word, funiki, which translates to atmosphere or mood. It's part of the reason why often these spaces just feel so real, because of the rich atmosphere they strive to create. Yasuo Otsuka believes that Japanese animation emphasizes this idea of a strong emotional resonance rather than just gag-based cartoons, which feeds into the deep worlds and atmospheres developed in Japanese animation. Bearing that in mind, you can see why it's important to emotionally anchor these stories in a true world. Eleanor Cameron calls it the particularity of place. The sense that there is a narrative anchored within a larger world. And in order to see that, you have to be an excellent observer, which is what Hayao Miyazaki is.
これね、ただ見てもダメなんですよ。自分の想定した泥がどうやって登ってくんだろうと考えて見ていくと、 あ、なるほどという気もしないでもないという。
Miyazaki was originally influenced by European architecture and setting, and in a lot of his earlier work, you can see that optimistic view of Europe coming through. But into the 90s and onwards, as he became disillusioned after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Japanese elements began to take a more prominent role, as well as the more immediate space that he lives in.
宇宙に行かなくても僕らはいっぱいいろんなものを周りにね、虫の世界もね、含めてたくさんの世界を持っている。
What's interesting as well is that he gives us the space to breathe in the world that he set the story in. While some deem this technique the pillow shot, a moment of peace between all the action, Miyazaki refers to it as ma. Like a space between a clap, you take a second to break the tension and allow the film to grow in a deeper dimension. And as well as the feeling in the worlds created, the people that populate them are equally important. Crowds bustle and every character's movement shows motivation.
群衆というのは、どのかったら主人公じゃない情けない人たちじゃなくて、ちゃんと世の中を支えてる人たちだから、ちゃんとした人間たちを描くこと。
He's very particular in background animation and checks each set of key animation. Personally, retouching scenes he's not really happy with. Bear in mind, this is happening while he's doing the storyboards. He hasn't even finished the story yet, but they're animating in the background. He expects a lot from his staff.
ちゃんとした人間たちを描くこと。本当に大事なことなんだ。キャラクターを描いてると思ってるのは、人間描いてると思いません。じゃあよろしくお願いします。
But he's very good at describing what he wants and will push people hard to get there.
そういう感じがはっきりあると、ここで教師の動き見ると本当にそれが強調されると。
And underneath that push, there is a fundamental rule that Miyazaki has when it comes to drawing. Storytelling is about the characters, so they need their vigor to leap off the page. Here's where the wider depths of Miyazaki kick into gear. He knows that it's important to understand his characters and let them grow organically as he draws. At the heart of his work are very motivated protagonists. They inspire action and are generally not passive at all. They don't tend to sit around and just run things through their mind over and over again, considering things internally. No matter what they're faced with, they just get up and go.
アニメーションというのは、意志が筋肉なんですよ。意志を表現、運命を表現する、意志を表現する。運命があって。
And this is where his true mastery shows, boiling all that motivation down into how they move. Take Satsuki and Mei running here. Although they're both performing the same action, you can see a lot of their character in how they move, what their choices are. The younger sibling following the older one, repeating what she says, just to be part of the fun. He pays very close attention to movement, ensuring it goes beyond just a movement, but make sure it's anchored in a real world observation. You're not just turning for the sake of turning.
そんなの機敏じゃないんですよ、なんだか知事のスタッフ見てて、なんでもうますると思ってますない。知らないからです。起きているのは、目からのものじゃなくて、石なんで筋肉を増すのは石だからね。
Even when he was producing only yesterday, not directing, I want to point out, he couldn't stop himself teaching the new recruits about true observation rather than just assumption.
ちょっと2人くっついて飯食ってみな。ちょっと。こういうのはね、観察書いてないんだよ。こういうもんだと思って書いてるわけ。
If you're not achieving the level he wants, he can turn from the kind of Santa Claus vision people have of him into a very hard taskmaster.
不機嫌で痛い人間なんだ。自分の考えに全部従っていたいです。それじゃならないなと思うから、あれだけ笑顔を浮かべてる人間なんです。みんなそういうもの持ってるでしょ。その時に優しい顔してますねとか、笑顔で浮かべていると思う。笑顔そういう時代に作るんだよ。
Now, these strong characters seem to be projections of what he wished he was, despite all his mistakes. It roots directly into his childhood, where the community had to face ruin in post-World War II Japan. But an essence comes through it, concentrating on what remains rather than what is lost. And in this sense, the strong female characters that permeate his films are also thought to be a representation of his mother, a strong, independent woman who developed spinal tuberculosis when Hayao was very young. He still keeps her in his mind. These elements shine a light on a deeper motivation in his work.
それに楽しんでもらいたいっていう意思が動機はね、なんで楽しんでもらいたいか。楽しんでもらえたら自分の存在が許されるんではないか。無用なものではなくて、そういうふうな抑圧が自分の中にあるから。それは幼児期に形成されたものがなんかあるんだ。それは別に欲しくみたいとは思わない。僕はとにかく人に楽しんでもらうことが好きです。
So I think with this in mind, I really start to understand his push for an incredibly high standard in animation.
とにかくね、理想を求めるんですね。理想主義。すごいよね。子供に及んでそうな。一番はっきりしてるのは恥ずかしいことをしたくないっていう。恥ずかしくない作品を作りたいっていう。映画できちゃった時に情けない思いをしないことが一番大事だから。やっとけよかったって絶対ないよ。やったけどダメだったねとまだマシなんで。
He understands that it can be impossible to untangle a director from a film, and he wants to stand behind his work, not make excuses, be proud of what he's done.
正直に作んなきゃいけないんですよ、裸になって。本当に。いや、これはもう娯楽映画だからって作ってても、実はその人間の根源的な思想がよく出てしまうものなんです。出すまいと思っても出ちゃうんですよ。それで隠して作ると、そのしっぺ返しが本人だけに来るんですよ。どういうふうに来るかって言ったら、やっぱり正直には作んなかったってしっぺ返しが来るんです。自分にダメージが来るんですよ。だから映画作れなくなるんです。
But he's not the only person working on the film. And this expectation of a super high standard can create a lot of clashes. But he feels the weight of his own expectations too.
才能も日々もしてるもんだ。一番大事なのは演出ですよ。 どこが必要なのか分かんないんだよ。それに向かって、初めはこういうことやろう、ああいうことやろうとかね、いろいろこう始めるでしょ。その目標を立てて、そっちに向かって進め始めてね、だんだんその時いかなかったでしょ。ここも代表するだろう、といろんなこといっぱい重ねながら、終わりに従って、その累積がですね、どっと不安となってのしかかってくるものなんです。ですから、本当はサングラスでもかけてね、その映画を見たいぐらいなんですよ。
That anxiety definitely seeps into his work, lining the edges with a deepened message.
飛行機の設計家とか、機械を設計した人たちっていうのは、どんなその時が善であると思ってやっても、やっぱり時代の空間の中で、機械文明そのものの手先になるから、無傷じゃないんですよ。呪われた夢なんです。アニメーションもそうです。
But despite his pessimism,
自分一人一人が幸せになることが目的だっていうね。自分が幸せになることが目的だっていう人生の。どうも俺納得できないんですよ。
another element of hope blossoms in his work.
分かる映画って何かってつまんない映画なんですよ。論理でやってるとさ、自分の考えで狭くなるから、それを意識的に壊してみようかなとするので、子供たちはね、分かるんですよ。論理で生きてないから。さよなら。またね。そういたしまして。
Remember when I said that he empowers his protagonists with a sense of action, the power to surpass adults and do what is right? That feeling, that motivation seems to stem from one incident when he was a child, something he's talked about several times before, and academic Susan Napier feels that it's a really central point to all his motivations. When he and his family were escaping firebombing of his hometown during World War II, this tiny truck.
トラックの荷台に父と兄とで乗りました。その時に乗せてくださいと駆け寄った母親と幼い女の子を置いて逃げたという記憶は長い間私を苦しめました。母も同じようなことをふと口にしたことがあります。ただ心にトゲのように残っています。
It was a super significant event, and looking at this really helps to understand Miyazaki's motivations. That's why the movement is so important, because it speaks for the will of his characters. So he creates these worlds not just for him, but to inspire the next generation. And in this sense, his films really are for kids, drawing them in with wonder, knowing that they possess an observational power to pick up the details that he puts in. But more than that, he remembers the openness and sense of wonder that they have. It's the reason why May sees the little Totoro, because she has not had her childhood violated by adult common sense.
それ大事なことなんです。そのようにつなぎ止めてるのは子供なんですよ。この子っていうだけじゃなくて、子供一般なんですよ。で、12月になってヤギ出すんですよね。ヤギ覚えてるんですよ。ねえねえいないねって謎とか。小さい子は本当によくちゃんとそういうことは覚えてる。人間って生まれた途端に問題が起こるんですよ。それで無限の可能性を持っていることが生まれてくるんだけど、その可能性を次々と諦めていくことなんですよ。何かを選ぶってことは他のことで諦めることにつながるから。結局そうなんです。だからもうしょうがないです。人間の存在そのものはそういうものなんだから。
And here is where I just want to step a little deeper again. At the core of his films, there is a central optimistic message.
私に生きろと言ってくれた。生きて。
Originally, Naoko's line was Kite, as she called him to her, a more romantic idea. But his overwhelming belief of how we should fight to live would never just let a character walk into death. So he changed it to Ikite.
Sorry about that. People calling me. Wow.
Yep.
All right.
にもならないと言っても死なないんです。
I can't. Huh. Okay. Sorry. Give me 1 second. All right. Good. It went away.
もう本当に通りじゃないんです。ナボは生きてるって言ってるんですよ。生きてるって言ってるんです。だから長い関門難脈セリフが今決まったんです。
He believes that in order to live, you have to continually fight to be better.
今のままでいいのよって歌が流行ってんだからね。ありのままで。ありのまま最低だよ。ありのままなんていいな。無理して痩せ我慢して。もうその人たちにとっては戦争ってのはもう時代選択できない時代選択できないです。今の自分たちのあれです。でも精一杯生きたって感じだから。
The vitality these characters show, the worlds they exist in, life literally screams from his movies.
生きていくっていう力を尽くしていきなさいんですよね。顔売る限りの力を尽くしていきなさいってそう。だから自分たちが与えられてた自分たちの範囲で自分たちの時代に顔売る限り力を尽くしていけるしかないんです。
The question of living life fully is so important to him, partially out of questioning his own reason to exist, but also his mother's life.
僕に対する気持ちというのは僕はほどいてないね。どうすれば僕はもっと生き生きと生きられたんだろうという思ったりする。病気がつながったかもしれない。病気がちにもかかわらず生き生き生きるにはどうしたらいいの
He puts everything he can into careful observations of each scene. I think there's no greater demonstration for his love of life than when these guys turned up to show him new AI deep learning technology.
毎朝この頃会わないけど身体障害の友人がいるんですよ。でその人は、歩いてくるんだけど片足がほとんど外側に曲がったものだから大変な苦労して歩いてくるんですよ。でその彼のことを思い出してね、僕はこれ面白いと思って見ることできないんですよ。これを作る人たちは痛みとかそういうものについてね、何も考えないでやってるでしょ。極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいと全然思いません。
Originally, I thought his reaction was interesting because of how he immediately saw that they were disregarding basic consideration of people. But then he said,
極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
And it was in that I understood that it goes against everything he knows. It completely throws away the careful observations that he puts into his animation. And it disregards the value and love that he placed on life, specifically people who struggle to live, and they still live fully. And it opens the door to make light of their struggle. On top of that, they had a machine generated rather than a person's hard work and attention to detail. You can actually see the seeds of his next feature develop right here. His next feature is reportedly being developed slowly for two reasons. First is Hayao Miyazaki's age, and second is the vast amount of drawings being done because they're animating at a higher standard with more images per second. His study of people and their nuances led to a real respect of their nature. I mean, even the film is called How Do You Live? And as Miyazaki says,
時代に合わせて作ってるんじゃなくて、時代の中にいる自分がそうやって書き立てられるものが出てきた。やってない領域があるなっていう感じが、それだけなんですけど。
So now, more than ever, he wants to invite people to discuss how we can live in difficult times. He notes that he did try to ask this with The Wind Rises, saying, I thought about how we should face these chaotic situations we face right now, how we should live in such difficult times. I thought the discussions would be deeper in that sense. So I suspect his next feature will probably be a tour de force about life itself and the dominance of the human spirit. And despite retiring several times, the man cannot stop working, and for a very simple reason.
作品作ってる時だけが生きてる時なんですよ。戦う男であり続けるっていうことが、自分が生きてるっていうことになってる。いやいや、もうね、やっぱり死ぬまで作りたいんだと思うよ。作りたい、作りたくなる。
Miyazaki wants to create that responsible child that told his parents to stop, turn around and pick up those people, let them on their small van. He still feels like he has more to give, lessons of hope to pass on despite the threats circling in. With all that in mind, it's clear that Miyazaki is a master. It's even clearer why his animation is loved so much around the world. There's so much vitality squeezed into his work. Each frame is carefully crafted with a visual wonder. But underneath all that is his deep personal message. A message of positivity, put together with fun. Animation literally means to give life to something. And I can't think of anyone else who does it more than Hayao Miyazaki. So I can't wait to see his next feature, even if it's going to take years.
ここからうまくいかなきゃいけないはずですから、幕の引きがいのあるようなものを作りたいと思ってますけど。
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching as always. This video was...
Okay, let's see. We have 2 questions here. Let's see what they are, I guess. I have to go to Darnell, Senator pick up paint. Thank you. Okay, that was Jackie. All right. All right. Anybody got any comments about that?
Where is his work viewed? Is it in theaters or how does he present his work?
Well, the guy who did this is a Russian filmmaker, and he's done a lot of films on different artists all over the world. You know, Middle East, Europe, America, you know, and Asia. But Miyazaki's work in particular is viewed in Japan and throughout Southeast Asia, and it was very popular in Russia, you know, for a very long time, and China as well. So you can see it at some of these like animation and film festivals, you know, but if you want to look for like well, you might be able to find, you know, different pieces on YouTube. By his.
Streaming.
Yeah.
He has movie streaming.
Yeah, but you know, I'm sure you can find, if you want to find it, you can find it out there somewhere in the world.
Yes.
It's on.
But it's not viewed in theaters or anything of that nature, public.
It wouldn't be in American theaters, no.
But you can pull it up.
Yeah.
Even on your cell phone, you can pull it up. HBO Max and different things. Just go there and browse. You can find something.
Oh, right. I understand.
He did a lot of films.
So yeah, he's been around for a while. He's been making films for I think like 50 years now. So you know, if you, and the thing I really like about him is, you know, in what I've seen is he really does create these whole environments and worlds, not just the characters, but, you know, the whole, his view of the world around him. And they're very, you know, very imaginative. And, you know, since we're talking about, you know, being creative and things, you know, I think he's a good person to look at, you know, as far as just from the standpoint of the worlds that he creates and how he sees that. So we could all probably use a little more of that in our work, I think. So anyhow, anybody got anything else that they have to say about his work or anything we saw today?
Well, I've always admired people that can do the animated art. I like the people that do work for Disney and have to do screen after screen after screen. That means you have to perfect your art and make it animated in a sense. So you got to have patience to do that, you know. So it's a long process.
Yeah, I've worked on a couple of animation projects for like commercials and things like that, you know, when I was doing art direction. And it's an incredible amount of work just to come up with about, you know, 2 minutes worth of animation. You know, it's, you know, you would think, oh, okay, you know, it's only 2 minutes, but think of it this way, you're seeing about 280 frames per second. Okay. That's yeah, that's an awful lot of work. You know, so just, you know, you know, and you take that, and of course there's 60 seconds in a minute, you know, you multiply that out, you know, that's a lot of individual drawings. You know, that's a lot of individual drawings. So
is there any shortcut to any of that nowadays? Does Disney do any shortcut, or he just have all these animators doing the paint pictures?
Yeah, well, you know, in different animators work in different processes. And Miyazaki in particular uses like an old style approach to animation, and he doesn't do digital. Of course, you know, everything's gone somewhat digital, but it's a lot of individual drawings. But a lot of that is by, you know, you have people who create backgrounds, and then you have people who create characters, and then they merge the two together, you know, the character over the background. So you don't have to draw the background for every frame, you know, if you're trying to animate movement in the character. Now, if you're animating movement in the background, that's a different story, you know, because then you've got to add those elements in there. But, you know, there's different ways of doing it. You know, Disney, you know, for the most part, they're still, or they were up until maybe 5 years ago, still doing a lot of pretty traditional animation where, again, you know, you're having people create those backgrounds, you know, those different environments that your characters are moving in. And then you have artists who specialize in just, you know, drawing those particular characters, and, you know, creating the sense of movement, you know, for them. And then again, you know, you're merging it together. But, you know, I'm sure animation has changed, you know, a lot in the last, you know, 15, 20 years. You know, but the basic idea is still the same. You know, you've got to have this sort of vision, you know, in your head of your character, but also where they're at and how they're interacting, you know, with other characters in the story. And developing all of that is, you know, a pretty amazing thing to do, you know, have that ability to see that, and to, you know, have the skill to actually get it down to the point where other people can take it and develop it. And, you know, if you looked at a lot of what he was doing, he was creating what they call storyboards, right? And I used to do tons and tons of storyboards for commercials. And all they are these simple little frames. But, you know, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the concept and some kind of composition down where, you know, a client or a director or somebody can look at that and then take that and put it into live action and or have it animated in some way. And, you know, that's just sort of the beginning. It's the concept, it's the idea. And then you get into, you know, working out all the little details. So it's
one segment of the film also showed looked like 2 rows of tables of what would be illustrators or animators taking the project forward and doing the drawing after he had the concept.
Well, it's the drawing, it's the coloring, it's, you know, I mean,
He's not doing everything himself. Huh?
No. And you know what you saw there was just a small studio, you know, and animation studios. There were a couple of animation studios in Atlanta here doing work for not CNN. What is it? Cartoon Network and Turner Broadcasting. And they literally, you know, for like some of the animated series, they kept a staff of like 200 people.
I can believe that.
Yeah, artists who were, you know, and different artists, like I said, they would be like people who worked on characters, people who worked on backgrounds. They had artists who did nothing but do what we call matte paintings, which are just background paintings, you know, that, you know, it creates an environment, you know, to put these characters in. And so, yeah, you know, you can hire and keep a lot of artists busy, you know, on a project like that. And again, you know, just the sheer number of, you know, frames that you have to produce to, you know, if you took that number of 280 per second, per minute, per hour, you know, that's a huge amount of artwork.
Yes. Is that sitcom South Park, that cartoon, adult cartoon, is that a takeoff of all of this animated art? They do that every week, South Park?
Yeah, well, South Park, yes. South Park is an animated feature as well. And, you know, you have the writers to write the storylines, but you also have, you know, artists developing the characters. You know, same thing. It's, you know, any kind of animated series like that, you know, and you have different animators who work in different styles. He happens to have, you know, a very complex style, you know, with all these different environments that these characters, you know, interact in. You know, South Park, again, you know, there's a lot of different settings in which, you know, these characters move and kind of live. You know, but you have other animators who use very, very simple environments. And sometimes, you know, there's almost like no background and it's just the character. So, you know, it varies. It varies depending on the artist and, you know, their particular vision. But, you know, a lot of people now, you know, you could, in fact, you know, kind of create your own character and do your own animation, you know, on your computer right there at home now. Most of us have, you know, even a basic computer today can do, you know, some animation, you know, and create characters and things. So, you know, you just have to have the right applications and then you have to learn how to use them. And that's
Okay, well, it's just that simple, okay. The right application and know how to use them. Okay.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is you have the tools, you know, you have the basic tools right there in front of you that we're all kind of viewing this on, and including your phone, you know, because you can actually there are applications that you can actually use on your phone to do similar things. It's getting it's getting yourself familiar with the the process of doing it and the actual software. And it's like, how many hours have you got in a day, right? Eloise and I were talking about that earlier. We don't have enough hours now, and you want to take on something, to learn this new skill. So I will say, if you're curious about animation and things like that, there is a site, and not just animation. You can learn how to do almost anything on this. Has anybody heard of Skillshare? Write that down. Skillshare. Pardon?
I have an account with them, Skillshare.
Yeah, Skillshare. Yeah, it's well worth checking out. You can learn to do almost anything, on that site. They have different people who, have instructional videos and things, and are pretty, for the most part, I think most of them are pretty in depth. And Eloise, you said you had an account with them, is that correct?
Yes, I've taken several classes through them, and it is in depth.
Okay. When you're taking your classes, don't they have the ability to contact the instructor and ask questions and get feedback and things like that?
I don't know. I haven't ever gone that far, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. My understanding is one of the things that makes that really beneficial is that even though this instructor may have done that video a couple of years ago or whatever, you can still, through Skillshare, kind of reach out to them, ask questions, and get kind of like clarification on something if you didn't really understand it or something like that. So it's, I think that's one of the advantages to that site, is that it kind of connects you to the person teaching the class, so you can pick up, some of the subtleties that sometimes get missed, in just watching a video. So anyway, I would highly recommend it. I've seen, a lot of the people who present things online have taken courses through Skillshare and learned how to, put together a video or, add sound or whatever. And you could probably spend a little bit of time on that, if you're so inclined. But if you're curious and you want to learn new things, that's a good way of doing it. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody got any last thoughts before we go away and go have lunch? Man, you guys, did you have your coffee this morning? You're usually a little more talkative than this. Yeah.
We're all very pensive.
It's Monday.
It's Monday. Okay. Well, look at it this way. So far, it's been a good week. Everything works, You're able to hear me. I'm able to share stuff with you. So that's all.
Yay.
Anyway.
I had a good experience yesterday.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know what I do with it, but it was a wonderful experience to learn something, to be exposed to something new. I was invited on the webinar to take a tour of the Steinway piano factory, and from the beginning to the end, the tour and explain everything. So that was all kind of new, instead of seeing the finished product, but seeing it at the very beginning and going through their factory and seeing how everything was made. It was about an hour, so I thought that was, you don't get that very often, so that was very nice to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some fascinating things out there, for you to learn from. And hey, we've got the time.
Yeah, well, and they answered questions and a whole bit. So had a virtual audience, and he took us through the tour, and then at the end he answered questions. So I thought that was a very nice way to learn something new, how things are made.
Yeah. So this was not all pre-recorded. It was interactive, right?
It was interactive. Well, yeah, at the end, yeah. But he just took you through the tour and from department to department explained everything. You could see the workers working. And then at the end, when it's all over, God went through every department. Then at the end, he took questions because you could submit questions at the end. I mean, submit questions and then he would answer them. So that's the way they kind of do a lot of the virtual kind of things right now. And you invited, you have to have your own link and your own information. Just like you invite us, they invite you at a certain time, and you want in the audience in that sense.
Okay.
Is that still available that we can view a YouTube presentation of it or something? I'd be interested in seeing it.
Well, I don't know, you could check and see, I don't know, but this was produced by Steinway, a company, so you can go and Google. They might have now put this on their website so that you can then look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can probably find anything on Google. If it's been online, like a webinar or something like that,
yes,
more than likely it got recorded.
Yes. So it's tomorrow. It was yesterday. So
yeah,
it might be still. Just Google it or go to Steinway's website and find it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, anybody else? John said goodbye to everybody. All right, so I guess we'll be back here at 2 o'clock. I've got some work from some of you, but if you've got more work to send me, try to send it between like now and like 1 o'clock. That way, it's not getting there at the very last minute, okay? And I'll get it downloaded and, organized, and we'll take a look at it this afternoon, okay? And send me some really creative, imaginative stuff, right? We've been inspiring all this imaginative, thinking in all you guys, all right? So let's see what you're doing, all right?
Now you know how we did in high school. Come to class but didn't do the homework.
Well, let's have
the students we were.
Yeah, let's have none of that. Everything, besides, everything today is homework. Everything.
Yeah, okay. I know. Okay. See you later. Bye.
All right.
Bye. Bye,
All right. Have a
everybody.
good lunch. We'll see you in a little bit.